11. Gem. I stand at the base of a mountain for a long, long moment, not sure I'll be able to climb back up again. The place where the soldier's spear pierced my thigh aches so badly it feels as though the bone there will split in half. A hollow in the ground between two nearby cross cacti looks more inviting than a smooth-skinned bed of clouds. I think how good it would be to lie down there and stare up at the million stars in the sky and be done with this day. But after a long drink of cactus milk and a too short rest, I start back up the trail. As much as I'd like to leave the queen to her lies and trembling up on the mountain, I promise to keep her safe. Still, I don't hurry. I can't hurry with my leg throbbing like a second angry heart. But I wouldn't even if I could. The less time I spend with Isra tonight, the better. I can't remember being this angry since the day she came to my cell and laughed at my starving people and cried her sticky tears onto my chest. I would just as soon wrap my hand around her throat and squeeze as sit by the fire with the Queen of Yuan. How dare she treat me like a comrade at shovel and hoe every day we work together, only to cower and quake the moment her guards are gone. I'd believed the way she'd view my people had changed. I thought she was different from the rest of the smoothskins. I thought she considered me a friend. I certainly worked hard enough to convince her I was worth befriending. Even if shared story and teasing word and gentle bit of advice was deception on my part, she doesn't know that. I've given her no reason to change her good opinion of me, if she ever had one. She must have been lying too, lying with every lopsided smile and flash of her clever eyes and softly whispered reassurance about my healing legs. She was only pretending to trust me, to feel affection for the beast she kept in chains. I should have known she was false. In her eyes, I'll always be a monster. I suspected as much from the beginning. So why does the proof of what I've known all along feel like betrayal? Why does the sight of her hands make me want to hurl boulders down the mountain? Why do I hurt? I feel as bruised as I did the day Mir told me she was choosing another man as her mate. I should have been happy. I didn't want to stay with the tribe and watch my baby growing inside Mir to be born into a life of famine and pain. I was a warrior. I had a tunnel to finish digging, roses to steal, smooth-skinned cities to worm my way inside. But I wasn't happy. There were days when watching Mir love someone else more than she had ever loved me, seeing the casual intimacies between her and Haunt at the campfire, catching him with his hand upon her swelling belly and a smile on his face, felt like dying. The same way being captured by smoothskins felt like dying, and being ordered around by my enemy felt like dying. Isra has brought nothing but misery into my life, but when I arrive at the remains of the campfire and see the flames out and Isra no longer sitting where I left her, every hot, angry thing inside me runs cold. Isra! I circle the fire, panic sharpening my voice. Isra! The air is too quiet. Even the wind has stopped moaning. It feels like the night is holding its breath, waiting for me to discover the terrible fate that has befallen the Queen of Yuan. It has to be terrible. I left a blind girl alone a dozen feet from the edge of a cliff. She could have gone to relieve herself and fallen to her death. She could have decided to follow me and taken a wrong turn on the path and wandered into a Zion nest. She could have been discovered by a hunting party and been taken prisoner. I was certain there would be none of my tribe this close to Yuan. But what of the other tribes? The desert people from the north have been venturing farther south since they burned the domed city of Vanguard 2 years ago, only to find that its destruction did nothing to return life to their own blighted territory. Nero warned my father that if we failed to return to Yuan's magic roses, it might come to war between our tribes one day soon. We must show the northerners that we have harnessed the smoothskin magic and share the power of roses with them before their chief convinces his people that the only way to heal the land is to destroy every domed city still standing. We cannot allow Yuan to fall, not until we have secured the secret to their abundance. Isra knows that secret. I should have been coaxing it from her, not shouting and brooding like a child. I should have thought about my people and my promises. I should have remembered how much Isra needs protecting. The desert might be my home, but it isn't hers. I was a fool to forget that, even for a second. I think of the first moment I saw her, with head thrown back and arms wide open, laughing as she ran through the garden. I thought she was crazy then, but what I wouldn't give to hear her laugh like that right now. I have to find her. I have to. She has to be alive, if she's not. Isra! My voice is echoing off the rocks. I can't think of her body lying bent and broken halfway down the cliff. I won't. I searched the dirt around the fire once, twice. Finally, on the third careful circle, I find an uneven set of footprints. The moons haven't risen high enough to touch this side of this mountain, but the stars give enough light for me to see the scuff marks leading up the trail. She was walking, not steadily, but alone. That's something. Something. I start up the mountain at a run, ignoring the agony in my leg every time my left foot connects with the ground. I deserve this pain. I'll gladly take this pain, and more, if only... There! An Isra-sized lump curled on the ground by the side of the trail. Isra! I kneel beside her, expecting her to wake up and snap at me for frightening her, expecting her to stir in sleep or grumble beneath her breath. But she doesn't move, even when I push her hair from her face and cup her cheek in my hand. Instantly, I know something's wrong. She's so cold, colder than anything living. All this time, I thought I was changing Isra's mind, but she was the one changing mine. So much so, I forgot that there are differences between us. Serious differences. She has no scales or claws to protect her from the hardships of the desert. She has a body that must be fed and watered more often than mine. She is smaller and more delicate, and clearly isn't able to tolerate variations in the temperature of her blood. The desert people grow cold during the winter, but there's no danger in it. We are more vital in summer, but we don't lie down and die when the winter nights take hold. Die. She can't. Isra is... My voice breaks as I gather her into my lap. Her limbs are limp and lifeless. Her head rests in my palm. Isra, I whisper, throat so tight I can't speak any louder. Can you hear me? She doesn't move or speak, but when my gaze drops, I see it. The flutter of a pulse at her throat. There, but fainter and slower than it should be. She's alive, but if I don't find a way to warm her, she might not be for long. The thought has barely formed before I'm on my feet, running back to the remains of the fire with Isra in my arms. I no longer feel the pain in my leg. Fear has banished the awareness of everything but Isra's life, so close to slipping through my fingers. But by the time I fall to my knees by the fire, I'm shaking. I have never trembled with fear, not ever on the night we swam upriver and crept into the dome. I settle Isra across my lap, fold her head into my chest, and hold her there with one hand as I rearranged the wood and tucked dried grass beneath it with the other. I could move faster if I laid her down, but I am afraid to risk it. I'm not as warm as fire, but I'm warmer than the night, and my blood is certainly hotter than hers. Just a minute or two, I whisper into the hair on top of her head. Some part of me certain that she can't die as long as I'm talking to her. You'll be warm soon. I reach carefully around her limp body and extend my claws, using them to sharpen the end of one stick and to notch a hole in another, before reaching for the wood with my hands. I fit the pointed stick into the notched one and spin as fast as I can, shaking Isra from my chest in the process and sending her tipping off my lap. I take one moment to pull her back to me and shift my position before starting to spin the wood again. I spin and spin, holding my breath until I smell smoke, and then spinning even faster. My muscles burn, and my breath comes fast. But just when I think I can't keep up the pace any longer, sparks fly from the notch, and the grass beneath the kindling catches. The grass flames high and fast, and the slender twigs at the bottom of the pile flare to life. After I add more grass and coax the twigs with a stick, the larger limbs begin to smolder and finally to burn. I'm famously quick with a fire, even amongst my people, who all have a gift for flame, but I don't know if I've been quick enough. I shift Isra, and her head falls limply over my arm. Even in the warm light of the fire, her face looks pale, her parted lips bloodless. We're sheltered from the worst of the wind by the rocks on either side of our camp, and the fire warms up quickly, but even as her cheeks regain their color, Isra remains terrifyingly still. I whisper her name, what feels like 100 times. I smooth her hair from her forehead, pat her cheeks a little bit too hard, rock back and forth in hopes of raising my own body temperature, growing more frantic with every passing minute. I have made a fire. I am giving her the heat from my body. There is nothing left to do. I could wrap her in her shawl, but it's no longer around her shoulders. She must have lost it when she wandered up the trail. Why didn't you feed the fire? I whispered, lips moving against her cool forehead. Why? I'm suddenly angry, belly-burning angry, but not with Isra, with myself. This is my fault. I shouldn't have left her on the mountainside, even for an hour. I shouldn't have taken her from the city in the first place. I should have insisted on going alone. That would have proven I was trustworthy. This only proves I'm a fool. I had no idea she'd be so sensitive to the winter chill, but ignorance is no excuse for what I've done. If Isra dies, it will be for nothing, a senseless waste. Yes, there are bulbs at the top of these mountains, and they'll take root in her garden and put out a pretty flower that sweetens cactus milk to a treat that makes a man dizzy. But drinking it won't give Isra what she wants. The garden she's desperate to plant will accomplish nothing. The hope I've given her is a lie, like every other word out of my mouth since she let me out of my cage, like every smile and laugh I've forced while we worked in the ground together, like everything I've pretended to feel, and everything I've pretended not to feel. It took this, her nearly lost, and me wanting her back more than I've ever wanted anything in so long to make me understand. If she weren't lying so still, it would be laughable. It's pointless, hopeless. Even if she weren't afraid of me, at the core we'll always be enemies. She rules a wicked, selfish city, and my tribe suffers for her people's comforts. She's a queen. I'm her prisoner. I resent her, and she fears me. And there are times when I fear her too. I am her monster, and she is mine. But right now, none of it matters. Isra, please, open your eyes, I beg. But I don't think she will. When her lashes flutter, I'm so surprised that my elbow jerks beneath her head, sending her chin jabbing into her chest. Her teeth knots together, and she moans, low and grumpy. It is the most wonderful sound I've ever heard. Can you hear me? I support the back of her head and smooth the hair away from her face, in time to see her eyes slit open. Jem? Her voice is sleep rough and cranky, and even better sounding than her grumpy moan. Where? She blinks, and for a second it looks as if her eyes are trying to focus before they go empty once more. Do your eyes hurt? I ask, hoping her cold sleep hasn't left lasting damage. No, but my head does. Little. She winces. More than a little. Her lids droop, and for a second I worry she's falling back asleep. But then she asks, what happened? I was about to ask you. She shifts in my lap, and I'm suddenly very curious of the place where we touch and everything that I was thinking before she opened her eyes. Everything I'm feeling. When I speak again, my voice is rougher than hers. I found you on the trail. You were cold, and I couldn't wake you. I brought you back here and rebuilt the fire, but for a while, I wasn't sure. I thought. My arms tighten around her, but Isra doesn't seem to mind. She turns her head, resting her cheek on my chest with a sigh. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have left you alone. I shouldn't have let the fire go out, she says. But I couldn't find the wood, and I got scared, and then I was so cold and confused, and I started remembering things about my mother, her buttons. Her hand drifts to her chest, but hesitates there only a moment before coming to rest on mine. I never meant for any of this to happen, I say. I didn't understand. I never meant to cut you that first night. I had no idea how fragile your skin was. And tonight, when I left, I thought, I didn't know it was so dangerous for you to get cold. I didn't either, she said. It's all right. It's not all right. It is. Her fingers slip between the buttons on my shirt, brushing bare skin. It becomes even harder to breathe. I forgive you. Can you forgive me? I start to assure her there's nothing to forgive, but I can't tell any more lies. I don't know. She bites her lip. Is that why you sound angry? I'm not angry. Not at you. I'm just what? Happy you're alive. Me too, and grateful to you. She swallows, and her next words come harder. I meant what I said. I'm not afraid of you. I know it's crazy, but She lets out a tired sigh. When she speaks again, her voice isn't much more than a whisper. I'd like to see your face again. May I? At first, I think she means see me in the way she did the first night, in the garden. But then she lifts a hand into the air, and I understand. She wants to touch me. Yes, I say, doing my best not to shiver as her fingers feather around my eyes and down my nose, before her thumb smooths across my bottom lip. Thank you for asking, I whisper, lips moving beneath her lingering touch. She sits up, bringing her face even with mine. Her mouth is so close, her breath warms my chin. For the first time, she doesn't smell like roses. She smells like cactus milk, clean and salty and of the desert, like my people. And I suddenly wonder if she would taste like all the girls I've kissed in my life. There were other girls before Mir. After she found Hunt, I always assumed there would be more, but I never thought, even a moment ago when I didn't imagine that she might. A part of me still refuses to believe it, but another part knows what a girl wants when her fingers linger too long on a boy's mouth, and it knows better than to hesitate. So I don't. I pull her hand away and risk a kiss. Our lips brush, soft on softer, timid and testing, the barest friction of skin against skin, but that's all it takes to know that it's right. Isra sighs and twines her arm around my neck. My blood rushes and my body comes alive, and everything in me lights up like a sunrise, like a night sky splitting stars, like her eyes when she smiles. She kisses me again, and then again, harder and longer, and I forget every reason why this shouldn't happen. I pull her closer and warm her mouth with mine, moaning with her tongue as her tongue slips beneath my lips, and I taste cactus and salt, but also a hint of sweet and dark, velvety spice that isn't smooth skin or desert woman, only Isra. And in that moment, she is my Isra, and nothing is impossible.